All right, getting some time in on the trails, good old outdoors. Gonna go over a couple of things that I've learned, talk to some great trail runners that they recommended on transitioning from road to trail running and how it can help your speed out on the roads for your next race. Talk to you guys in a little bit. What's happening, everybody? Welcome to another time talking to you about a little bit of a transition that I have recently made, just doing some of my runs out on the trails. What I've learned after 12 plus years of putting in miles and miles on the pavement and just randomly making a transition onto the trails. And let me tell you, it's really been exciting. You know, as the older we get, it's unique to try things that we're not good at or learning or developing in. And so for me to go from the roads to the trails, I've really kind of put a couple things, about 5, that I found I wish I would have known a little bit more going in. And I know a lot of people want to transition from those roads to the trails, and so I thought I'd put those together. You know, when I look back at my experience on the trails prior to this whole training block and moving some miles out to the trails, I really have one trail run experience, and that happened to be a 50-mile race. That is 100% correct. My first real trail run was the race that I did. I did all of my training for my 50-miler on the road, 100%. So much, in fact, that my 50-mile trail race, which was in Marin County up near San Francisco, 50 miles, 10,000 feet of climbing through the Marin Headlands, one of the most beautiful places to run. I did the entire training on road, so much that the race I ended up doing in some pretty worn down Asics Cumulus shoes. So if you can imagine the traction that I had during that race. But let me tell you, I don't know if I would have changed that experience for the life of me, because I think I learned a lot through that process. So what are some of the things that can help you transition from the road onto the dirt and onto the trails and really embracing that new culture and new life and new different type of running? First and foremost, take your watch and get rid of it. The reason I say that, your pacing is so much different. Your heart rate is so much different. Coming from the roads where I was easy running in the mid 7 minutes to up low 8 minutes, that's a hefty pace out on the trails. And so number one thing I can suggest, if you're transitioning from the roads to the trails, do not worry about your pacing. I do keep my watch on to just monitor heart rate and stuff like that, but it's definitely something you will be significantly slower on the trails than you are on the road, and that is okay. That doesn't mean that you're not getting an awesome workout in. In fact, I think because you're doing that, you're actually going to improve your times when you get back out onto the road, because you're increasing different strength and you're really building what I call that deep muscle strength, which leads me to point number 2. Focus on building glutes, hips, core strength, and mobility. You are not on a consistent road that has the same stepping, the same footing, and you're not doing the consistent flat roads or consistent down or consistent up like you do on the roads. The trails are changing all the time, so your footing is different. Your elevation gains are so much higher. In fact, they actually have a different term for it. They call it vertical. So there's a lot different terminology that's involved in it, but focusing on those hips and those glutes is something really important. I fortunately, unbeknownst to me, started doing some of this hip, core, and glute strength during my 100 miles. I'll put a link right up here above to that video, as well as it has a link to the strength exercise I'm doing. but there's a ton of great content out there for you to be able to pull on strengthening and stretching those glutes and hamstrings. When I started to increase those miles out on the dirt, I made sure to increase my yoga, increase those hips and glutes, because man, they'll start barking at you a lot quicker. So that's number one and number two. Number three is to make sure you're focused on your feet. Let me repeat that. There is no daydreaming out on the trails like you can daydream out on the roads. How do I know this? I've fallen plenty of times, and the people I ran with have fallen plenty of times. You know, so much so you got a lot of dirt, you got a lot of rock, you got a lot of uneven grounds, you have tree roots. The last big one that I went out and did, 21 miles, the whole goal was for both of us not to fall more than 2 times. Well, I fell what I call myself 2.5 times. I caught myself on the 3rd time. Knees didn't touch, so if we're playing football rules, I didn't go down all the way. And the guy I ran with fell 2 times. So it's definitely something you really have to pay attention to. So the daydreaming and zoning out, next thing you know, you've got 12 miles in. It doesn't happen so much out on the trail. So make sure you're focused on picking those feet up, because it's totally different. I think this is one of the things a lot of the road runners that I've talked to that have transitioned to some of the trails we laugh about a lot, is because you don't really fall when you're running out on the roads, but it's almost like a common situation when we're out on the trails doing some running and stuff like that. So make sure you pick up your feet. Number 4 is plan your nutrition. So when I go out on the roads, and similar to how you guys go out on the roads, you know where water stations are. You know where the gas station if you need to pick up water with a credit card. But when you go out on the trails, it's you in the trail. There are no water fountains unless you're on a really high trafficked trail that has little bathrooms and stuff like that. I know there's some around my house that have campgrounds that you can get it. But I had to go out and go get myself a vest that I use now when I run and plan accordingly. So like when I did my last 20+ miler, we made sure we had 3 liters of water with us, because there was not going to be any water through the duration of the entire run. And so you have some added weight, but you also need to make sure you have that hydration and your fueling with it. And last but not least is, it is awesome. So make sure you take the time to enjoy the difference in the scenery. Like I had mentioned on the front of this, as we get older and as we grow in our running on the road, transitioning to something brand new is oftentimes scary, but also you feel like you're taking steps back, and that is okay, but enjoy the process. You know, the nature that we do see out on the trails is so much better than what we do see on the roads, and that is not an exaggeration. Oftentimes I'll go for trail runs and not see another person, and you're just out there enjoying nature, and I can see how the die-hard trail runners think the road runners are crazy because they get to spend so much time in nature, and it's so awesome. So make sure you really embrace it and enjoy it. Don't daydream too much because you'll fall, but really take in the scenery and enjoy it. So let's look at those 5 things. Number 1, take your watch and get rid of that thing, because you are going to be sorely disappointed if you're focused strictly on pace. Number 2, focusing on those hips, glutes, and core strength and mobility. Number 3 is to focus on your feet. Make sure you're picking those feet up, because next thing you'll know, you'll be face first in the dirt like I and many other trail runners have had happen. Number 4 is plan the nutrition and hydration, because you're going to be out there oftentimes without any other places to pick it up than what you're carrying with you on your back. And number 5, make sure you have fun. It is awesome. You know, great country to be able to run in, and amazing beauty in nature. That is my 5 tips for transitioning from the road to the trail. Hopefully you guys can get out there and do it. Push yourselves to new limits. Again, make sure you hit subscribe, as we will continue just different types of running advice. Thanks again for watching. Look forward to catching up with you for the new video. Have a great day.